So as you know, if you're following our channel, we just recently bought a house in Florida to stay in the winter. So
Yes.
now we have a house in Virginia, a house in Florida. We're living in 2 states.
And now that we're actually doing it, we're starting to really discover what that means to be living in 2 states.
And there are some definitely challenges that we are working through.
Yes, some interesting things. Yep.
Hey everybody, I'm Bill.
And I'm Elizabeth. Live simple.
Live free. Living in 2 states. Very interesting.
Yes.
Very enjoyable to be able to spend winters in Florida and summers up here. But more of a challenge than we at first anticipated on many levels.
Oh, we just didn't know yet what that was going to involve.
And yeah, we were initially just going to be snowbirds down there in an RV.
Yeah, just go down maybe 3 months. Hoping to do 3 months
3
in
months,
an RV.
yeah, like December, January, and February, or mid-December through mid-March, something like that. And if that's the case, you know that when you're down there, it's temporary. And you're going to be home again in a few months. So you don't worry really about all these other things that we're going to talk about, because you're only going to be down there for a little while. It's an it's an adventure, and you live it like an adventure.
Right. However, also that means trying to find places to stay and keeping the tow vehicle working and all that kind of stuff. It's got its own share of potentially complicated issues.
Right.
Yeah.
So we basically eliminated all of those complicated issues by buying a house down there.
Yeah.
And now it's so easy. It's so simple. We can go whenever we want. We don't have to make any reservations.
Yes.
We just get in the car, 1-day drive. We're there. We open the key to our house, and we're set for as long as we want to stay.
And that is still absolutely true and wonderful. It really is. It really is. However, really figuring out how to make this work is a little, there's stuff involved in it. Now, somebody's going to tell us, you guys aren't living simple anymore. But the thing of it is that once we get this all situated and figured out, once I kind of get systems in place and we kind of figure out how we want to do it, it's going to be wonderfully simple.
Yeah.
But we're just being honest about the process that we're finding. We had a process of going from a big house to a really tiny house, and a process of trying to, it's adjustments and new seasons in life, you know.
So we have duplications that we need to do. One is duplicating stuff, and the other is duplicating the expenses.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about both of those. We want to talk about the stuff first, and then towards the end of the video, we'll talk about duplicating the expenses like house insurance, stuff like that, and how we're going to pay for all that.
Yeah, how we are working that out.
Yeah. So stuff. Obviously, the house needs furniture. We're not going to take a U-Haul and take furniture back and forth all the time. So the house needs furniture. The house needs all of the kitchen setup, dishes, all of the kitchen appliances, blenders and toasters and all those sorts of things. We knew that going into this. We expected that.
In fact, I consider that part to be fun.
Yeah.
We are going slowly, finding things, picking things out. I don't want the house to be cluttered, so we're just going to get some good basics in there. And I've been keeping my eyes open for things I know I'm going to need in the kitchen. So yes, that has to be done. But that part's been, kind of fun.
And
I keep thinking of things.
There are only a couple of things we're planning to buy new. One is a bed, and the other is 2 recliners.
Yeah.
And that has been the plan. And then everything else from then on, we'll just be doing, flea markets and thrift shops and things like that.
Yeah, little not super expensive antique stores and just stuff like that. Yeah, we feel like we should get a good bed and we need good recliners. But other than that, we're just going to I've been having a ball looking for stuff, and I'm getting the things I need for the kitchen a step at a time and not spending a whole bunch at one time. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of coming together, although it's funny, I keep thinking of things like, oh yeah, I'm going to need a mixer, so that'll be a process.
Well, so that's the stuff that was a given. We already knew that.
Yes.
But then I started realizing some other things that I'm not sure what to do with, and it started with my tools.
Yes.
Because, as you know, I can't seem to go anywhere without doing a project.
Yep.
I really don't want to do that, but it just, life happens.
It just happens.
And I've been a contractor all my life, so I'm always doing projects. So
And why pay someone else to do something he's very good at doing?
right now,
himself.
we spent a couple months down there doing some work down there. Now we're back in Virginia, so I brought my tools home because I had some stuff to do here. Now we're going to be going back down to Florida again very soon for about another month, and we'll talk about that later. But why? So I'm going to have to take all my tools back down there again because I still have to finish the shower and a couple of other things down there. I have an entire shed full of tools. Am I going to carry all those tools back and forth and ladders? I want to get up on the roof to do the gutters, and all of a sudden I was like, I can't. How can I duplicate all of those tools? It's just too much.
Well, and
expense, but carrying them back and forth is too much also.
Yeah. And, he is going to be finishing the addition here in Virginia.
Right.
So, the house in Florida is pretty close to done. But, there's just stuff you need to keep a house well maintained.
Right. It's not like having an RV where, you're not really going to do a whole lot of maintenance on the road for a couple months.
Yeah.
But the house is permanent and it needs maintenance and I need tools to do that.
Yeah.
So
just figuring that out.
So it started with me realizing that I needed tools in both places. And then I started thinking about a lot of other stuff. Clothing. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily want to carry an entire suitcase full of clothing and pack and unpack every time we go back and forth. I would very much rather have a set of clothing here in Virginia and another set down there in Florida that we just leave in the drawers. So when we go back and forth, we don't even have to take any clothing, just my, the clothing that I'm wearing and my toothbrush.
I'm planning on keeping a toothbrush down there.
Well, that too. Okay.
Yeah. It's a little different for me because honestly, I don't always find clothes very easily that really work. And what I do find, I really tend to like. So I'll probably have some things that are real for hot weather kind of stuff. But we don't necessarily always have hot weather when we're going to be down there over the winter. So yeah, just figuring out, kind of how do we want to do the clothes? Yeah. Just try to keep it simple. Yep.
And then we realize important papers.
Yeah, that's
you always need important papers.
Yes.
Not that we're planning on using credit anymore, but if you apply for credit, you got to have your tax returns. If you apply for anything like that, you got to have your tax returns. We travel a lot. In fact, the next two trips that we take with Thrive Life are going to be from Florida. So we need to have our passports.
Yeah.
Now, if we're flying in the country, we can use our driver's license. But one of those will be an overseas flight. We need to have our passport.
Right.
So we need to take that back and forth.
Well, and one of the things I did before we went down to the Airbnb is I bought a great big file thing that opens up. And I have tried to put really important, pertinent things in there because there's just certain things that are very difficult to duplicate that you really should have just in case,
And, we are self-employed. A lot of you think that since we moved to Florida or we're buying a house, we're not moving to Florida, but we bought a house in Florida. Oh, it's a nice retirement home. We are by no means retired.
No, we both work.
We both work
Yes.
many long hours between YouTube and Thrive Life and a couple of the other things that I'm doing. My point there is that we have to keep records of all of our tax stuff, all of our receipts, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I need to have a file for all my tax receipts and all that. Every time we travel, all of our hotels and all that kind of stuff, rental cars, it's all tax deductible.
Yeah.
So
if it's a business trip, it's tax deductible.
So I've got an expandable file folder that I'm going to carry back and forth with me because wherever I am, I'm going to have to be able to put tax receipts in there.
So yeah, we're going to. I've got a personal finance folder. He's got a tax folder. We're just going to have stuff that we just simply are going to carry back and forth. Try to keep it organized, And so then we're talking about office.
Yeah, right. Because we are an ongoing business, both of us spend a lot of office time between the paperwork and between the editing because each of us have our own computer and we each edit our own videos. So we have to have two offices down there like we do up here. We each have to have our own office. And then both of us plan on taking our laptop back and forth because I got all my files in there.
Yeah, I want to take the laptop.
I don't want to be lugging a printer back and forth, so we're going to have to duplicate the printer. Going to have to duplicate office supplies like paper and pens and staples and all those kinds of things.
You get that all set up so that we can actually work there as well as we can work here.
Right.
Absolutely. And part of that is just picking up the stuff we need, but part of it has been, oh goodness, are we going to haul a printer back and forth and a paper shredder for crying out loud? There's just stuff that we're not going to be living in an RV where you deliberately keep everything super like honed down. We still need to do life.
Yeah.
And
then something that's been an ongoing challenge for us is the mail.
Yeah.
I know it's possible to have mail forwarded back and forth, but it's a matter of anticipating when we're going to be where and make sure we change everything around. And that Elizabeth, well, I don't think Elizabeth has done Lev Hayalam video recently, but she does that on a regular basis.
I get the, and I'm going to be doing Lev Hayalam videos again. But yeah, I get the subscription service from Israel.
When we were in Florida a couple of months ago, we got a package that had a bill due on it. Well, the Lev Hayalam had come from Israel to Virginia and then forwarded to Florida, and we had to pay the extra postage from Virginia to Florida.
Yeah, it wasn't Lev Hayalam's fault. They sent it where they were supposed to send it. It snuck up on me.
Just figuring out how to deal with the mail and have it forwarded back and forth and all that kind of stuff. And where is your official address for insurance purposes and all that kind of stuff. It's been a real headache.
Well, and once it gets all in place, it won't be.
Yeah.
But boy,
it's just a matter of figuring it all out.
Just to make sure that we have the correct address where it's supposed to be. Absolutely.
Then another big one that we just realized is, that we are preppers.
Yeah.
We have a lot of preps. We are prepared to be able to survive if the grid completely shuts down.
Or if we just lose electricity for a while from a hurricane.
Yeah. So, but all of that is expensive. Preps are expensive. Talking about, of course, long-term food storage, we use Thrive Life freeze-dried. Talking about water filters and solar lamps for the inside of the house, all kinds of stuff like that. Are we going to duplicate all of that in Florida? Are we going to split what we have? Are we going to carry it back and forth?
Yeah, we're figuring that out.
That's a work in progress. We haven't figured that out yet.
Well, and we still want to feel like that if something should happen, we're prepared.
Right.
There's ponds that aren't that far away in Florida, and I'm sure we can manage to get some water without an alligator, without an alligator in it.
We'd have to get another water filter. Like we have a Berkey for up here, and we'd have to get another one for down there. I don't want to be carrying the Berkey back and forth.
We're not trying to make it seem horribly complicated. We're just really trying to be realistic about what is going to make this work.
And a lot of these things are things that are just now dawning on us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's going to be fine, but just figuring it out, first aid stuff, getting that house set up. What is something that I want to carry back and forth, and what is something I'm just going to duplicate? Like, do I want to go ahead and just have toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo, all that kind of stuff just down there ready to go and up here ready to go? And I don't know, does toothpaste get old? I don't know. Things like condiments.
Well, we have to make sure when we leave, especially if we're gone for months, that the refrigerator is cleaned out.
Right, and do we want to leave it on? I mean, if we're going to be gone for months and months and months, are we going to want to run the refrigerator? So what do we do with things that are in the freezer?
Well, even if we have the refrigerator and the freezer completely cleaned out, like you said, condiments, are we going to throw away, half a jar of ketchup and mustard because we don't want to run a refrigerator for 6 months?
Right. Do we just bring them back and forth? Just take what we have and hopefully keep it in some kind of little cooler until we can get it home. Things you just kind of always have in the fridge. We don't have a lot of food that sits around in the fridge because we use a lot of the Thrive Life, or if we get something fresh, we use it right away. But certainly have condiments. I never had not thought about that before. The motorcycle.
Yeah, when I took the motorcycle down there last time we went down, it's still down there, by the way. I didn't bring it up with me, but I talked about that. It cut my gas mileage in half because of hauling that extra weight in that little car. And a number of people say, well, instead of paying that extra gas, why don't you just get another motorcycle for Florida?
Oh, no, we can't do that.
Yeah, the gas cost me $100 more. Motorcycle is about $8,000 at the least for a good used one, so I think we'll just continue to haul the motorcycle back and forth, and that's one of the reasons I bought that flatbed trailer that I've got, so I can haul the motorcycle.
Yep. My keyboard. You know, Bill has said that at some point down there he'd like to get me just a little spinet of some kind of a piano.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you know, I've got a case I can put this keyboard in, but
it's an electronic keyboard and it is portable. But our car isn't that big and it takes up the entire back seat.
Yeah.
So.
And I need my walker, and yeah.
Taking it back and forth is not really practical. So are we going to get another piano down there, or is she going to be 6 months without it?
Yeah.
You know, same thing with my bass. I love to play bass in the worship band. But so far, we're not in a worship band down there. Now, we did find a good church. A lot of people are asking.
Yes, we did.
We did find a good church. They have a wonderful worship band, but all the spots are completely full. They've already got several basses, bass players, several piano players. So I don't know.
Which is fine.
Yeah. So I don't know realistically if we'll be, playing in the band. So I don't really have any reason to take my bass, but she can definitely still use the piano because she just plays all the time.
Right. Right. So bicycles.
We haven't ridden much lately, but because of her health. She is improving. We're both improving with our health, and we're hoping that, especially in Florida, that we will be able to start riding again. But do we take those bicycles back and forth all the time?
Right.
Or do we buy more bicycles? It's like, come on.
Right. If I buy a book down there and I really love it and I'd like to read it again, do I always have Florida books and then I have Virginia books? I know that seems kind of silly, but I just been thinking about that. DVDs, CDs, I guess just have some favorites maybe that would go back and forth, but I guess we just kind of have an environment there and an environment here. You don't think about things like that at first. Family pictures,
Yeah, we're just going to have to take some of the family pictures, our favorites that we have on the walls, take some with us. So we have some hanging here and some hanging there.
Some hanging there, That's right. Now this is something that we really had to try to get worked out. And that is, we went with a nationwide drugstore so that it's available everywhere.
Well,
it's CVS.
That's not a secret. CVS.
Yeah, CVS. I like to use the little town drugstores, but we've had to go with CVS because you find them everywhere. And our town in Virginia has one, and so does our town in Florida. I meant our town in Florida has one. But trying to make sure we have that coordinated so that they don't fill it in both places. Anyway, I'm getting that ironed out.
It's definitely doable. It's just, as she said, we need to iron out the kinks in the system.
And medical appointments, trying to get
It's kind of awkward having two different doctors you're seeing that are telling you different things.
Right. Well, and we knew it was important to have medical care available down there. Now, as we've talked about before, we have a very good insurance now that'll pay here or pay there.
Right.
That's not a problem. We're well insured, and the TRICARE, which is our secondary insurance, his military insurance covers everywhere. So we're covered fine.
Right.
But just like for instance, I'm realizing what do I do if somebody wants me to have an appointment for something and it's taking like 6 months to which can happen, to get the appointment? Where am I going to be? And you know what I mean? And just figuring all of that out.
Well, that's one of the reasons that we came back up to Virginia when we did, was because of medical appointments for both of us that had already been scheduled like 6 months in advance.
Right, that we had to be at. So we came back up here, take care of all that. I'm just going to have to kind of keep that in mind. I kind of want to center our doctor care in one place, but we do have it available in the other if we need to,
right.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the kind of some of the things we've thought about,
Yeah.
you know.
So that's the stuff. Are we going to duplicate it? Are we going to carry it back and forth? Well, kind of a combination of the two.
Yeah.
But then,
And just see what works. Once we're set up, I don't think it's going to be that difficult.
right. But then I also mentioned earlier expenses, monthly expenses that are duplicated. You know, and we're talking about insurance and lawn mowing and all those kinds of things. And I'll go through the list in a minute. But a lot of people have said that it's going to cost us so much for the monthly maintenance of that house down there that it's not really worth it, that we should just go get an Airbnb or something like that. Well, the Airbnb that we were in when we were doing the work on the house was $2,200 a month.
And that was a great deal.
And so it doesn't take long for that to be really too expensive.
Well, even if we were only going to try to be in Florida for 3 months, you know, just for, let's say, January, February, March, something like that. Even, especially because we would be in a less expensive, fancy area,
we might be able to do 3 months for only $7,000.
Yeah.
You know,
So, and a lot of people have said that, talked about how expensive house insurance is down there because of hurricanes, and we have discovered that yes, indeed, Florida house insurance is considerably more expensive than it is here in Virginia.
Than it is here, sure.
So, what we have decided to do, and we've actually done this now, is we've discovered that a Florida resident does not pay state income tax.
Yeah.
Here in Virginia, we pay state income tax, and we also pay state personal property tax on vehicles. I think we paid like $800 last year just on the vehicles, and that didn't include the income tax. And we discovered that Florida does not have state income tax. They do not have personal property tax on vehicles. So we thought long and hard about this,
yes.
but we were quite frankly in a little bit of turmoil for a little while about whether we were going to do this or not.
Well, you have to understand that this means that we're committing to being 6 months and 1 day in Florida.
Well, we haven't told them yet. We have switched our residency, our legal residency to Florida. And like she said, in order to do that legally, you have to be in the state at least 6 months and 1 day. So this year, we're going to definitely be spending a little bit more time in Florida, to make sure that we get that taken care of.
It's supposed to be 183 days.
Yeah.
And so before we made the decision, I had to decide for myself how I felt about possibly being away from my kids and grandkids and all that stuff longer than I had anticipated.
Right.
Now I have fallen in love with it down there, and I feel good down there. But family's important, so we had to think about that.
And along with that, a lot of people are asking why we don't just move there full time. We could now. We have a house there. We're Florida residents, but we have no desire to do that for two reasons. For three reasons. One is because it's just too hot down there in the summer for both of us.
Yeah. Now then I would be dealing with excessive humidity.
Yeah, I would not
Heat
enjoy
and humidity.
that.
Yeah.
The second reason is because here in Virginia, where are we? We're in Virginia.
We're in Virginia, right?
We have family here. Barry and his family, like we've said before, live in the house right next to us, and we share a driveway.
Oh no, we love that.
And they just bop over all the time. It's community, and if we just moved to Florida, we wouldn't have that anymore.
No, I wouldn't be able to do that. I need to be around them. I love it here.
So we just can't do that. And the third reason is because we are very involved with the church here.
Yeah.
We've been playing full time with the worship band since we moved here 3.5 years ago, and the worship band is very sorry to see us go for months at a time, and we are too, because when we're down there we can't play. And both of us have been musicians our whole life. I played in the Army band for 24 years, and both of us have played in worship bands together for 40 years.
Oh, goodness.
And we would just...
Yeah, 40 plus years.
Right now, there's no worship band in Florida that we could get involved with. So, no, we are not moving full-time to Florida. But we have changed our residency. So, what that means now is that we have so much savings every month from the state income tax and the personal property tax that we don't pay, that makes up more than what the monthly expense is of maintaining the house in Florida.
Yeah, when we realized how expensive, what house insurance tends to run, and we are not in an expensive area. It's much worse even in some of the more expensive areas.
Right.
But when we saw that, and when we found out that if you're not a resident, then the insurance costs go up astronomically on just a part-time temporary.
Well, and so do the taxes.
Well, the taxes can potentially then grow, and also they think, well, are you going to be renting this out? In other words, it becomes a business property or just a part-time vacation home, and that's very high insurance.
We went into the county office to register with the property and whatever.
Yeah, we've done all that stuff.
And they asked something that I've never seen in any other state, and we've lived in many states.
Yeah.
They had a form to fill out. What is the purpose? And one of them was rental or business. Another one was full-time residence. Another one was, this is one I'd never heard of, seasonal resident.
Yeah.
And that just shows me how many people there are in Florida that snowbird. Because I've never heard of that anywhere else. Right. But if we checked seasonal resident, then our taxes would be like more than twice as much.
Well, our insurance would be.
No, our taxes would too, because if we went full-time, then we got what they call the homestead exemption.
Yeah.
And the taxes came down and the insurance came down. So not only do we have savings in the income tax but we also have savings in the insurance and the taxes by becoming Florida residents.
Right, but that does mean then that we can't just be going down for January, February, March. It means that we, have to be in Florida, which, like I said, I love it there. 183 days minimum out of every year.
Yeah.
6 months and 1 day, and then it's okay. We're doing everything up front. We're trying to be completely honest and totally up front with all of it. But we just had to make that decision.
So, because a lot of you have said that, like I said before, the monthly expense of maintaining that house is going to be just too much. Well, what are the monthly expenses? The property taxes, the insurance, the electricity, and the trash, and the water, those three.
And water is just in Florida. We have a well here in Virginia.
Internet, unless we turn it off and on every 6 months, it would be awkward. Mowing, because we're not going to be down there in the summer. We're going to have to hire somebody to mow.
We don't have to worry about it up here. We'll take care of mowing up here, but in Florida we'll have to mow.
And then security. I'm going to get some cameras. It's about $500 for the system that I want with 3 cameras. But then I'm going to actually use a monthly monitoring service where they call the cops if something happens. So that's extra cost. But all of those put together still are less than our savings from not paying state tax.
Right. I mean, it seems like, oh my goodness, that's just a ton, but actually, because neither of the houses are very big, neither of them are really have real high property taxes like a big house would have. The insurance, could be much worse. We picked an area that's not bad for insurance. Mm-hmm. Even if it's Florida, it's better than a lot of other areas in Florida.
Right.
And we've got septic on both properties, so I think this is going to be actually very workable. And not only are we going to have the savings from the property tax and personal, property tax, but from the income tax and personal property tax. Sorry, but these are just not going to be overwhelming, and it still is going to be a way to be able to get down to Florida, into the warmth, for considerably less than if we were trying to rent something or maintain like a tow vehicle and all that kind of stuff. It's going to end up not being that bad, and we have offset some of the extra costs now by the savings that we have.
Now, like we talked about before, this was an investment for us. We didn't just go down because we wanted to move to Florida and find a house and buy it and put a mortgage on it. We had a certain amount of money that we were going to invest in real estate, and we decided to do it down there instead of up here. So take the cost of the house and set it aside for this discussion, because that's our investment.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But what we discovered is that by buying the house in Florida, it's actually cheaper, and changing our residency to Florida, it's actually cheaper for us to maintain the both houses than it would be to maintain just the one house if we didn't have the other. The both. I'm talking in circles. I sound like President. I sound like Uncle Joe. But it's actually cheaper for us to do that because the tax savings is greater than the expense of maintaining it.
Well, and boy, when you start talking about trying, even if we're limiting ourselves to only 3 months out of the year, you talk about trying to get an Airbnb. Finding one is not easy. The cost is very high. Finding places to put an RV is just not as simple to find a way to snowbird down there as I thought it would be. Mm. We tried for 6 years, so I know. Yep. And this is going to ultimately, once we can get all these things kind of situated in place, and I think our finances are going to be just fine. I don't feel stressed about it. Once all these systems are down and we figure things out, it is going to be a simple matter of deciding it's time to go. So we just get the car kind of packed up and we go down. We may put the motorcycle on the trailer, a bicycle on the trailer, but we'll go down. And then when we go in, we're situated. And
just imagine going to Florida and you get to your house, you turn the key, you walk in, and there's your house. There's your home. And then in the summer you drive to Virginia, you open your house, and there's your home.
There's your home.
It's an amazing concept that we haven't really completely experienced yet.
No, we haven't really experienced it yet. When it starts getting cold here, I'll go down there, there's so many things that I love to do there. I'm hoping we can get out and doing some riding. But then when it starts getting hot down there and I'm getting into beautiful springtime up here in Virginia, I come back. I can garden. Things will be blooming. And I can be here for the summer and into the fall, and then it's an amazing thing.
And then in the midst of all of that, I'm still going to find some time, somehow or other, to go to Colorado or out west.
Yeah, but that doesn't change our big travel plans.
Yeah.
It just means that we're spending the cold weather living in Florida. That's like he said before, a couple of the trips that we have to make for work, now we're going to be leaving from Florida for them. That's okay.
Yep.
It's just...
We have, I didn't say this I didn't do a video about this, but I was just in Utah 2 weeks ago for a Thrive Life Leadership Convention.
Yeah, I didn't go this time.
We have the main Thrive Life Convention in Utah in September, and we've already booked the flights from Orlando.
For both of us, yeah.
For both of us. Boy, does that feel weird.
I know, we booked it from Orlando. We're still adjusting to things here.
So I guess we're committed to being in Florida during that time.
Well, I think we would have been anyway.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense to get back from a trip like that to Utah and then boom, it's time to go down to Florida.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be a little easier on me to be down there and get kind of situated a little bit and then go and then coming back. So, and I'm still going to squeeze in all the time with kids and grandkids that I possibly can.
So I don't know, dear. I think
that
that's
was the
about
whole
it.
list.
So if you're still watching, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I hope, maybe we've raised some issues that some of you may have already experienced.
Yeah.
And if you have, let us know. Is there a solution?
Yeah, what have you guys worked out?
Or if you're thinking about doing something like this, it'll give you a lot more to think about.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more involved than you initially realize.
A lot of people snowbird.
Yeah.
They were teasing down there when we went to this little place at Wikiwachi, that's the national bird. That's the state bird, snowbird.
Snowbird, yeah.
Yeah, which is funny. But people do it all the time, so I know everything can be worked out. And now we're just getting down to the nitty-gritty of getting everything kind of situated. And one way or another, I think it's going to work.
Right.
I really do. And when I got up this morning and went outside and it was 30 degrees, it's much better now, but it's 30 degrees, I got to admit, I was thinking kind of fondly of walking out in the mid 70s or 80s in Florida. Yeah.
So.
But in the spring, summer, and fall, it's gorgeous here in Virginia.
Yep.
I love it.
Well, dear, I think we're done.
I think we've rambled enough. Yep.
I hope you found that helpful. I hope you'd enjoyed it.
Yeah, we're just trying to honestly share some of the things that we've been realizing and learning.
Yeah. So, live simple.
Yes, believe me, live simple and live free.
Live free.
Yes.
You be blessed.
Yes, love you guys. Thanks for joining along, and we appreciate you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.